I seek refuge in God from the outcast Satan. In the name of God, who is gracious and merciful. Quran Topics by Tanvir Kazmi. Chapter number 51, Marriage, English audio number 2. Al-Ma'idah 5, verse 5. Today all good food is made lawful for you. The food of the people of the book is lawful for you. Also you may marry the chaste women among the believers, as well as the good women, chaste women among the followers of the previous book, provided you pay them their due dowries. You shall maintain chastity, not committing adultery, not taking secret lovers. Anyone who rejects faith, all his work will be in vain, and in the hereafter they will be with the losers. Al-Mu'minun 23 verse 1. Successful indeed are the believers who are reverent during their prayers, and they avoid vain talk, and they give their charity, and they maintain their chastity. Only with their spouses, or those who are rightfully theirs, do they have sexual desires. They are not to be blamed. Those who transgress these limits are the transgressors. When it comes to deposits entrusted to them, when it comes to deposits entrusted to them, as well as any agreements they make, they are trustworthy and they observe prayers regularly. Such are the inheritors. They will inherit paradise, wherein they will live forever. An-Nur 24 verse 3. The adulterer man will end up marrying an adulterous woman or an idol worshipper, and the adulterous woman will end up marrying an adulterer man or an idol worshipper. This is prohibited for the believers. Al-Nur 24:32, verse 32. And marry those among you who are single. They may marry the righteous among your males and female servants. If they are poor, God will enrich them from His grace. God is bounteous knower. Those who cannot afford to get married shall maintain morality until God provided for them from His grace. Those among your servants who wish to be freed in order to be married, you shall grant them their wish. Once you realize that they are honest, and give them from God's money that He has bestowed upon you. You shall not force your girls to commit prostitution, seeking the materials of this world, if they wish to be chaste. If anyone forces them, then God, seeing that they are forced, is forgiver, most merciful. We have revealed to you clarifying revelations and examples from the past generation, and an enlightenment for the righteous. Al-Ahzab 33 verse 27. Recall that you said to the one who was blessed by God and blessed by you, keep your wife and reverence God. And you hid inside yourself what God wished to proclaim. Thus you feared the people when you were supposed to fear only God. When Zayd was completely through with his wife, we had you marry her, in order to establish the precedent that a man may marry the divorced wife of his adopted son. God's command shall be done. Al-Ahzab 33 verse 49. O you believe if you married believing women, O you believe if you marry believing women, then divorce them before having intercourse with them. They do not owe you any waiting interim period. You shall compensate them equitably and let them go amicably, nicely. O Prophet, we made lawful to you your wives to whom you have paid their due dowry, or what you already have, as granted to you by God. Also lawful for you in marriage are the daughters of your father's brothers, the daughters of your father's sisters, the daughters of your mother's brothers, the daughters of your mother's sisters who have immigrated with you. Also, if a believing woman gave herself to the Prophet by forfeiting the dowry, the Prophet may marry her without a dowry if he so wishes. However, her forfeiting of the dowry applies only to the Prophet and not to the other believers. We have already decreed their rights in regard to their spouses or what they already have. This is to spare you any embarrassment. God is forgiver, most merciful. You may gently shun any one of them, and you may bring closer to you any one of them. If you reconcile with one you had estranged, you commit no error. In this way, they will be pleased, will have no grief, and will be content with that what you equitably offer to all of them. God knows what is in your hearts. God is all knowing, clement. Beyond the categories described to you, you are enjoined from marrying any other woman, nor can you substitute a new wife, no matter how much you admire their beauty. You must be content with those already made lawful to you. God is watchful over all things. Al Mumtahina 60 verse 10. O you believe, when believing women ask for asylum with you, you shall test them. God is fully aware of their belief. Once you establish that they are believers, you shall not return them to the disbelievers. They are not lawful to remain married to them, nor shall the disbelievers be allowed to marry them. Give back the dowries that the disbelievers have paid. You commit no errors by marrying them, so long as you pay them their due dowries. Do not keep disbelieving wives. You may ask them for the dowry you had paid, and they may ask for what they paid. This is God's rule. He rules among you. God is all knowing, most wise. If any of your wives join the enemy's camp and you are forced to fight, you shall force the enemy to compensate the men who lost their wives by giving them what they spent on them, their wives. You shall reverence God in whom you believe. O you prophet, when the believing woman to seek asylum with you pledge to you that they will not set up any idols beside Allah, nor steal, nor commit adultery, nor kill their children, nor fabricate any falsehood, nor disobey your righteous orders. You shall accept their pledge and pray to God to forgive them. Allah is forgiver, most merciful. At-Talaq 65 verse 1. O you prophet, when you people divorce the woman, you shall ensure that a divorce interim period is fulfilled. You shall measure such an interim precisely. You shall reverence God your Lord. Do not evict them from their homes, nor shall you make life miserable for them, to force them to live on their own unless they commit a proven adultery, zina. These are God's law. Anyone who transgresses God's law commit an injustice against himself. You never know, maybe God will something good to come out of this. Once the interim period is fulfilled, you may reconcile with them equitably or go through with the separation equitably. You shall have two equitable witnesses which witness the divorce before God. This is the enlightenment. Those who believe in God and the last day. Anyone who reverences Allah, He will create an exit for them, and they will and He will provide for him whence he never expected. Anyone who trusts in God, He suffices him. God's commands are done. God has decreed for everything its fate. As for the women who have reached menopause, if you have any doubts, their interim period shall be 3 months. As for those who do not menstruate and discover that they are pregnant, their interim ends upon giving birth. Anyone who reverences God, He makes everything easy for him. This is God's command that He sends down to you. Anyone who reverences God, He remits their sins and reward them generously. You shall allow them to live in the same house in which they lived with you, and do not make life so miserable for them that they live on their own. If they are pregnant, you shall spend on them until they give birth. If they nurse the infant, you shall pay them for the service. You shall maintain the nicely relationships among you. If you disagree, you may hire another woman to nurse the child. The rich husband shall provide support in accordance with his means, and the poor shall provide according to the means that God bestowed upon him. God does not impose any on any self more than he has given it. God will provide ease after difficulty. Many a community rebelled against the commands of his Lord and against his messengers. Consequently, we held them strictly accountable and requited them a terrible punishment.